I was diagnosed with Parkinson's last month. My son-in-law said, well, at least you won't be driving around embarrassing us anymore. My daughter looked away. At dinner that night, he tapped his fork and joked, maybe we'll put you in a home next to that nasty dog you loved so much. I went silent. But the next morning, I spoke to a lawyer and set a plan in motion. I'm 67. I've lived in Asheville, North Carolina, my whole life. Used to run a mechanic shop near Swannanoa for 30 years. Lost my wife to cancer 15 years ago. She was the love of my life. After she passed, I focused on raising our kids, Mia and Jason. Jason moved out to Texas years ago and we don't talk much. Mia stayed close. We used to be real tight. When Mia met Brad, everything started to change. He's the type of guy who always has a too-perfect smile. Real estate agent. Thinks he's better than everyone. He's one of those people who makes you feel stupid without saying anything that's directly insulting. He acts like everything is a joke, even things that matter. I tried to give him a chance. When they got married in 2017, I kept my mouth shut. Even though something felt wrong. I could see it in the way he treated her. Like she was lucky to have him. Brad never did a damn thing around the house. When they bought that big 2-story in Biltmore Forest, he called me up and asked if I could help fix up the garage. You're good with tools, right? Might as well put you to use while your hands still work. That's what he said. He always had little jabs like that. I'd bring Mia over some groceries, and he'd say, "Ah, look, Dad's still pretending he's useful." I ignored it at first. I figured he was just being dumb. Then I realized it wasn't dumb, it was mean. Mia stopped calling as much. When she did, her voice sounded different. Tired. Like she had to watch every word. I asked her once, "Is everything okay between you and Brad?" She said, "Life isn't perfect, Dad." That was it. Then, last month, I got diagnosed with Parkinson's. I knew something was off. My right hand wouldn't stop shaking. My back was stiff all the time. My signature looked like a kid scribbled it. But hearing the doctor say it out loud, that hit hard. Stage 1 Parkinson's. Still early, still manageable. But it's going to get worse. I knew that. Mia came with me to the appointment. She held my hand while the doctor explained everything. Afterwards, she invited me to dinner. Said Brad was cooking. That should have been a red flag. We got there around 6. Brad had already started drinking. He always starts early when he's not around his work friends. As soon as I walked in, he said, "Well, at least you won't be driving around embarrassing us anymore, right?" He laughed. Not a big belly laugh, more like a smirk with sound. Like he was proud of it. I looked at Mia. She just looked down. Didn't say a word. We sat down for dinner. He started tapping his fork against his plate. "Maybe we'll put you in a home next to that nasty dog you loved so much." He was talking about Duke, my Labrador. That dog was family. He helped me through the worst time in my life after my wife died. Brad knew that. He said it to be cruel. I didn't say anything. I just sat there. But something inside me shifted. It wasn't rage. It wasn't even sadness. It was this cold, solid feeling, like steel setting in concrete. I knew what I had to do. I didn't sleep that night. I went home, sat in my recliner, and stared at the ceiling. I kept replaying his voice in my head. Over and over. I thought about my daughter, sitting there saying nothing. I thought about everything I had saved over the years, my house, my retirement, every dollar I ever earned. The next morning, I got up before the sun. Showered. Shaved. Put on my cleanest jeans and a collared shirt. I drove straight to Becky Morales' office. She's been my lawyer for years. Helped me with the will when my wife died. I told her everything. The diagnosis. The way Brad talks to me. The way Mia looks away. I told her I wanted to change everything. I wanted to make sure Brad never saw a dime. I wanted to protect my daughter, even from herself, if I had to. Becky looked at me and said, "We can do that. We set up a trust. My assets, my house, my savings, even the land I inherited from my grandfather, they're all in the trust now. I'm still in control of it while I'm alive. But the second I pass, it goes directly to Mia. Not a penny to Brad. Not unless she divorces him." We also added a clause. If Brad tries to contest the trust or coerce Mia into selling, he gets nothing. Not even the furniture. But I wasn't done yet. Setting up the trust gave me some peace. For a while. But I still had this sick feeling in my gut, because Mia was still stuck with that man. And I knew Brad wasn't going to stay quiet forever. He always liked control. And once he realized he didn't have it over me anymore, I knew he'd start pushing harder on her. It didn't take long. 2 weeks after my meeting with Becky, Mia called. Her voice was low. Shaky. She asked if we could meet somewhere private. Not the house. Not the diner we usually go to. She picked a park over by Lake Julian, near the dog trails. It was cold that day, wind sharp enough to cut. But she stood there waiting for me, arms crossed, hair in her face. She didn't hug me. She just looked down and said, "He saw the papers." I felt my stomach drop. Turns out Brad had opened her mail. It wasn't even the official documents, just a summary letter Becky had sent her to explain the trust in simple terms. She'd left it on the kitchen counter. He found it. "He's furious," she said. "He thinks you're trying to take away his future." He kept saying that word, future, like it belonged to him. Then she said the thing that really made me see red. "He wants me to get power of attorney over you. He said, if the Parkinson's gets worse, you won't be thinking straight, and someone should manage things." I almost couldn't breathe. That was the plan. That was always the plan. He wanted control over my estate, over me. He thought the diagnosis made me weak. He figured if he couldn't get the money one way, he'd get it another. Mia saw the look on my face. She grabbed my arm. "Dad, I didn't agree to anything. I didn't know what to say." I nodded. I told her I wasn't mad. But inside, something darker started to grow. I realized Brad was pushing her into a corner, the same way he'd done for years. Only now, he was using me to do it. I didn't go back to Becky this time. I went to someone else, Earl Franklin, an old friend from the shop days. He used to work part-time as a private investigator after he retired. Still had some connections, still kept his ears open. I told Earl, I need to know everything about Brad. Every deal. Every side job. Every mess he's hiding from her. Earl didn't ask why. He just said, "Give me a week." During that week, Brad tried to play nice. He even called me once. First time in months. Said, "Hey, Pop, sorry if I've been harsh lately. Maybe we should grab a beer, clear the air." I told him I don't drink. He said, "Well, maybe it's time you start." That call told me everything I needed to know. He wasn't sorry. He was scared. He knew I wasn't rolling over anymore, and it made him nervous. Good. When Earl called me back, he didn't waste time. "Your son-in-law's drowning in debt," he said. "He's been floating payments between 3 credit cards, owes money to 2 hard money lenders out of Charlotte. That house in Biltmore? He refinanced it last year without Mia knowing. There's a second mortgage." I was silent. Earl kept going. "Worse than that, he's got a side deal going. Some shady land swap with a developer out of Tennessee. He forged a signature on one of the contracts. If that deal falls through, they're going to sue him personally." I hung up and sat in my truck for a long time, engine running. Brad had built his whole life on image. Fancy clothes, big dinners, expensive gifts for people he wanted to impress. He didn't care about Mia. He just wanted what she came with: stability, a good name, a father-in-law he thought he could milk. Now the cracks were showing. And I had just the tool to split them wide open. The next time I saw Mia, I gave her a manila folder. Inside were copies of everything: his debt, the forged signature, the hidden mortgage. I didn't yell. I didn't beg. I just said, "You needed to know who you married." She cried. Real, hard crying. Not just from heartbreak, but from years of pushing things down and finally realizing it was okay to feel it. That night, she didn't go home. She stayed at my place. I gave her the bedroom. I slept in the recliner. 2 days later, Brad came storming into my yard. No knock. No call. Just walked up the porch like he owned it. "You think you're smart?" he said, jabbing his finger at me. "You think you can turn her against me? I own that house. She's nothing without me." I didn't say anything. I just stared at him. He stepped closer. "You're just an old man shaking in his chair, waiting to die. You think she's going to stay with you while you rot? She's going to come back. And when she does, you'll be sitting in some nursing home crapping yourself while I sell off your land." Then he spit on my porch. That's when Mia stepped out behind me. She'd heard everything. She didn't scream. She didn't cry. She just looked at him and said, "You have 48 hours to get out of that house. I'm calling a lawyer. And don't come near my father again." Brad's face went white. But I wasn't finished. After Mia told Brad to leave, we expected him to vanish like the coward he is. But of course, he didn't. Guys like him never do. They don't go down easy because they think the world owes them something. He waited until the last hour of that 48, then showed up with a U-Haul and 2 guys who looked like they worked for beer and leftover pizza. Mia stayed with me while he packed. Said she didn't want to be anywhere near him. I didn't argue. We thought maybe, this would be the end of it. But a week later, I got a letter in the mail. Not from Brad, this one came from some lawyer out of Atlanta. Brad had filed for spousal support. Said Mia was abandoning him during a medical crisis, mine, not his, and that he'd sacrificed career growth to care for her aging father. The letter was full of garbage. Lies stacked on top of each other, with just enough truth to make it dangerous. I took it straight to Becky. She read it and laughed. This is desperation. But she wasn't smiling when she finished the second page. He's also claiming you're not mentally competent. That Mia manipulated you into changing your trust while you were impaired. That was the twist I didn't see coming. Brad was trying to flip the whole thing around, to paint himself as the victim. He wanted access to my assets by arguing I wasn't fit to make decisions anymore. If he convinced a judge I was mentally gone, Mia could be painted as an abuser. If that stuck, she'd lose everything. And Brad? He'd slither back in through the legal cracks. I was mad. Not the kind of mad where you punch a wall. The kind of mad where your whole body goes cold. I looked at Becky and said, "What do we do?" She said, "We fight. And we don't just defend, we go on the offensive." I got evaluated by a third-party neurologist. Paid out of pocket. The guy spent 3 hours with me, running every cognitive test in the book. The report came back clean. Parkinson's affects my body, not my brain. I was sharper than most guys my age. Becky filed the paperwork to prove it. But she also filed something else, defamation. Because what Brad was doing wasn't just greedy. It was personal. He was smearing both me and Mia to get to the money. Becky wanted him punished. Then Earl, my old PI buddy, called again. Said, "You want the nail in the coffin?" I found it. Apparently, Brad had been seeing someone. Not just a fling. This was a full-blown side relationship. Woman's name was Haley. Much younger. Worked in one of those trendy downtown real estate offices. Brad had been taking her out to dinners, using Mia's credit card. Even told Haley that Mia was emotionally unstable and that he was waiting for the right time to leave her. Earl got the receipts. Photos. Even a voicemail where Brad called Mia a dead weight and said once her dumb old man croaks, he'd have everything he needed to start over fresh. We gave it all to Becky. That changed everything. Becky filed a countermotion and added the evidence of infidelity. Said he wasn't just a liar, he was trying to exploit a dying man. Judges don't like that. Especially not in a county like ours, where people still believe in things like decency and family. Brad must have sensed the walls closing in, because that's when he made his final move. He showed up at my house one night. It was almost 10 p.m. cold. Raining. He was drunk, again. Banged on the door like a cop. I opened it because I wanted him to see I wasn't afraid. "You think this is over?" he slurred. "You think you won? You're nothing. A broken old man clinging to your damn dog's memory. You think she's going to wipe your ass when you forget her name?" I didn't flinch. He stepped closer. "You ruined my life. So I'm going to ruin hers." Then Mia stepped out from behind the door. She had her phone up. Recording. Whole thing. Brad froze. "You just threatened me," she said calmly. "Get off this porch, or I swear to God, I'll press charges." He laughed, but it was empty. "That's all you got?" Mia didn't answer. She didn't have to. Next morning, Becky filed a restraining order. We turned over the recording. Judge granted it the same day. Brad wasn't even allowed within 300 feet of either of us. But that wasn't the final blow. No, that came next. After the restraining order, things went quiet, for a little while. Mia moved in with me full-time. I made space for her in the spare room. We started talking more. Laughing, sometimes. We cooked together. It felt like I had my daughter back. But I knew Brad wouldn't just disappear. 3 weeks later, Becky called. Her voice was sharp. He filed for bankruptcy. That was his next move. Bankruptcy would buy him time, stall the lawsuits, delay the alimony hearing, and maybe even scare Mia into settling. But what he didn't count on was that Becky had already filed a fraud complaint in federal court. Because of the forged documents and fake business dealings, his bankruptcy wasn't going to be clean. No protection. No clean slate. Just a bigger target on his back. Then came the IRS. Turns out Brad had been hiding income for years. Bonuses, commissions, under-the-table deals, none of it reported. Earl found the breadcrumbs, Becky handed it off to a contact she had in the state tax office, and the rest happened fast. Federal audit. Back taxes. Penalties. Investigations. That fancy house in Biltmore Forest? Gone. Foreclosed within a month. The car? Repossessed. Credit cards? Shut down. He lost everything. But the part that really hit him? Haley, the girl he was cheating with, left the second the money dried up. She didn't even text him goodbye. Just packed her things while he was in court and disappeared. That was the beginning of the end. A year passed. My Parkinson's progressed a little. I take meds now, I use a cane some days, but my mind is still sharp. I still cook for Mia. I still walk out to the mailbox myself every morning. One morning, I opened it and saw a letter from a local law firm I didn't recognize. It was a request, from Brad. He wanted to meet. Said it was urgent. That he had something to say. I showed it to Mia. She looked at me, eyes cold. Why give him another chance to talk? I just want to see how far he's fallen, I said. We met in the lobby of that same law firm. I wore my good coat. Mia sat beside me. Brad walked in 20 minutes late. He looked ruined. Skinny. Hair overgrown. Suit wrinkled. He didn't even look at us when he sat down. I came to say I'm sorry, he muttered. I didn't say a word. Just waited. I lost everything. The house, my license, my reputation. I've got nothing. Mia sat up straight. Good. He looked at her, eyes red. I just wanted you to know, I never meant to hurt you. She said, you did. And now you can live with that. Then I spoke. I forgave you already, I said. He looked surprised. Maybe even hopeful. But forgiveness doesn't mean I'll ever trust you again, I added. It just means I don't carry you anymore. That was the final cut. He knew it. He nodded, stood up, and walked out. No goodbye. And here's the last twist. That land I mentioned. The one I inherited from my grandfather? I never told Brad the full story. It's not just a patch of woods. It sits right off a highway exit near Weaverville. Big developers are starting to sniff around. 2 offers already, both in the 7-figure range. It's worth millions now. I'm not selling. Not yet. Instead, I had it transferred into a new trust. One Mia manages. But not just for her. I added a clause, when I pass, the land is to be turned into a foundation. For women and families escaping emotional abuse. A place to stay, to get legal help, job training, whatever they need. We'll call it the Duke House, after the dog Brad mocked. The dog who never once judged me. The dog who sat by my side when I had nothing left. Brad took my patience, my peace, and tried to take my family. But now? Now he can drive by that land every day on his way to whatever cheap job he scraped up, and know it could have been his. But instead, it's going to save people from men like him. That's not just revenge. That's justice.